I have always been a firm believer in the raw potential of virtual reality, and despite that, I haven't actually owned a VR headset myself until just recently. Headsets were usually far too expensive or required a decent amount of space, but all that changed with headsets like the MetaQuest 2. Though headsets like the HTC Vive Pro 2 or Valve Index were more powerful, they were also more expensive and required decently powerful PCs to run games off of, or you gotta set up base stations, or all that stuff. The MetaQuest 2 was not only cheaper, it didn't require base stations or a PC of any kind. Its major strength was functioning as a standalone VR headset that could be set up anywhere. It even maintained the ability to connect to a PC via link cable or wireless connection, so you could still experience PC VR games on the headset. This made the MetaQuest 2 the most affordable, accessible, and adaptable VR headset on the market. There's a reason why Steam hardware surveys show that more than 50% of its VR players are using this headset. The MetaQuest 2 reigned as the undisputed king of VR, and there really wasn't any competition. The only thing getting in the way was Meta itself. Mark, what the hell are we supposed to do with you? Originally released as the Oculus Quest, they rebranded to the MetaQuest 2 in November of 2021. Meta wanted its users to sign up for Facebook accounts in order to use their headset, and this immediately turned many people, myself included, away from ever purchasing one. It was announced some time ago that they would eventually backpedal on this decision and remove the Facebook requirement, allowing users to simply just make a new standalone Meta account. And there were skeptics among people who said that the new Meta accounts would basically become the new Facebook account, and there would be no effective change. Then there were people on the opposite side of the fence, stating that they were fine using Facebook and didn't want to make a new account. Trust me when I say that the change is definitely for the best. If anything happened to your Facebook account, whether it was banned or hacked or deleted, you immediately lost access to everything you had on your MetaQuest. And Facebook doesn't have the greatest history of keeping your private information safe. At least a Meta account doesn't even require your real name or phone or anything, and you can enable two-factor authentication for some extra peace of mind. This way it functions a little more like an Xbox account or a PlayStation account. And there's many people like myself that were done with Facebook and wanted nothing to do with it, while also still wanting to grab the MetaQuest 2 for lack of a better option. And keep in mind those three words I said earlier: affordable, accessible, and adaptable. In those three categories, the MetaQuest 2 was king. And that doesn't mean it was the most powerful and immersive headset, but many didn't have the funds or space to set up something like a Valve Index. So reluctantly, I waited for the removal of Facebook accounts. And finally, they revealed that they would implement this change in August of 2022. Then, out of nowhere, maybe like a week or two before August, it was announced that they had planned to increase the price of the MetaQuest 2 by $100 due to inflation or logistics or some other bullcrap reason. And we've already known that these hardware manufacturers often sell their products at a loss with the intention to make up for that loss with software sales. And I guess Meta hasn't been having a good year. So when was this supposed price increase to take effect? Why, August, of course. The very same month they were supposed to get rid of that Facebook requirement.
Coincidence? I think not!
The price increase took effect August 1st, with the Facebook removal happening August 23rd. A very anti-consumer move on their end, especially considering we're almost 2 years into the MetaQuest 2's life cycle. This thing was released back in October of 2020, but that's the other catch. We've got a mobile chipset powering this device. It's essentially all the power of a glorified smartphone in this headset, and smartphones get outdated at a rapid pace. That's just how the industry is. I mean, I personally have had the same smartphone for the past 5 years, and I don't plan on upgrading till I need to, but phones get outdated every year by newer improvements in technology. So after 2 years and a price increase, you just have to sit and wonder, is the MetaQuest 2 even still worth it? Well, I took the plunge anyway, purchasing my MetaQuest 2 before the price increase. However, since they hadn't implemented the new Meta accounts yet, my headset was effectively an expensive paperweight for about 3 weeks. Then finally, I got the chance to jump into the magnificent world of VR. Before we really get into the reason why, I just want to say that, no, I don't think it's worth getting a MetaQuest 2 right now. Don't get me wrong, I've been having a lot of fun with it and I think it's a great device. There's still some really cool games to look forward to as well. But if you've waited this long for a MetaQuest 2, then you could probably wait just a bit longer. Very soon, I think the entire VR landscape is going to change. I still wanted to get a MetaQuest 2. I've wanted a VR headset for a good while, and I really value the versatility in it. The room my gaming PC is in doesn't have too much space for me to mess around in, and while you can sit in a chair and play VR, I much prefer to actually stand and move around. It makes the experience much more engaging to me. And like I said before, the MetaQuest 2 was kinda in a league of its own with standalone capabilities, as well as still being able to use it with your PC. So, I bought one, and I've been enjoying it for the past few weeks, so let's talk about the good and bad of this device, starting with the good. Like stated several times already, the MetaQuest 2 is a standalone VR headset. You can bring it to grandma's, play in the living room, the basement, anywhere you can make a little space. It's fairly portable and easy to take around with you. The battery life isn't amazing, getting you 2 to 3 hours, but to compensate, you can charge the headset off of pretty much any battery bank. The controllers use AA batteries instead of rechargeable ones, but you can either buy rechargeable ones to replace them, or just change out the AA's as needed. If you get some good quality AA batteries, you won't need to replace them for almost an entire month though, so it's not really an issue. Because it's such a popular VR headset, there are plenty of accessories to improve your playing experience. From covers to head straps, controller grips to extended battery life, and many more. If there's an aspect of the device that doesn't suit your fancy, you might find an accessory that addresses the problem pretty easily. I, for one, hate the stock head strap and wish it would burn in the fires of hell. So I got a new one and absolutely love it. I highly recommend a new head strap be the first accessory you consider buying. Now I want to talk about the games, but I have way too much to say about them, so instead I'm going to talk about what else you can do with this device first. Of course, you can browse the web, and it's really fun to do. You can open multiple tabs easily and pull them up beside each other. YouTube in VR can be a nice treat, when the video is actually designed for VR at least. With remote desktop, you can even control your main PC from pretty much anywhere in your home. Web VR experiences are usually free little fun things to play around in and are a decent time waster. You can create art or view other people's creations from an entirely different perspective. And there are even some fitness apps, because those make their way into absolutely everything like the parasites they are. Many games give you a decent enough workout anyways. And one app I really like is Big Screen. With it, you can stream videos to a screen in a variety of theater-like settings. You can also play any media files you have downloaded directly on the headset. Here you can invite friends to join your room and watch things together, or just mess around. I haven't tried the remote desktop feature in it yet, but the trailer for this app showed off people streaming a local multiplayer game and playing split screen together, which seems like a lot of fun. It all looks a lot better when you're actually in VR. Right now you're just staring at a screen, watching a video of me staring at another screen, so if this doesn't look that great to you, I get it. But it looks a hell of a lot better when you're the one actually in VR. Now let's talk about those games. I know for some people, the MetaQuest 2 is just gonna inevitably become a dedicated Beat Saber machine. Maybe mini golf too, because man, Walkabout Mini Golf is so damn good. But there's so much more to VR games. VR is at its best when the world reacts in a believable way to your actions. When you push something with your hand, the object should move in a somewhat realistic way. And this is what fully immerses someone in a VR world. Some games may only focus on a single aspect of their world, like the game In Death Unchained. This roguelite has a sole emphasis on bow combat. Drawing and aiming the bow is done in a fairly believable way that makes the experience fun and engaging, but that's really all the game focuses on, as there aren't really any other objects to interact with. Resident Evil 4 VR, a MetaQuest exclusive by the way, pulls a mean trick on you with these skulls in the beginning. You can bat them around and swing them and, it seems like a really cool interactive experience, but then the rest of the objects in the game barely have this level of interactivity. Actually, I have to talk a little more about RE4 for a minute. This is the most fun I've had playing RE4. It might not have much VR interactivity, saving most of that for puzzles, but it's still RE4. An already great game, now playable in an entirely new and immersive way. Plus, when you do really get to make the most of VR, you get to do this. And if you ever wanted to really feel like the complete badass Leon makes himself out to be, then you can do this. Mercenaries mode is here with challenges to unlock special items in the main game, like the Chicago typewriter. The only things really missing from this game are the Ada DLC campaign story, and the fact that the cutscenes kind of rip you right out of your immersion. You'll be peeking around a corner to investigate a noise, and then this. You just stand there looking like a doofus and have to watch the cutscene play out on a virtual screen. I'd also recommend turning off the QuickTime events, though I have to admit they made me very nostalgic for the Wii. It has some downsides, but like I said, this is actually the most fun I've had playing Resident Evil 4, and would highly recommend it to anyone. Walkabout Mini Golf is fantastic. I'm always ready to play through a round or two of this game. The course designs are super interesting, and you have a surprising amount of control with your swing. The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, is another amazing title that has you scavenging materials, crafting weapons, fending off zombies, and interacting with NPCs. There are tons of amazing games to play here, and many of them run very well on the Quest 2. You may run into some crap games though, or games that you're just done playing after only an hour. But Meta has pretty much the same refund policy as Steam. If you've played less than 2 hours of a game and request a refund within 2 weeks of purchase, then you should get a pretty much guaranteed refund. I've gotten a couple games refunded myself and can say that they take a few days longer than Steam usually does to give you your money back, but you will get it probably within 5 days. But now I have to talk about unlocking the full potential of the MetaQuest 2 by using Sidequest. You need to make a developer account to do so and turn on developer mode on your headset to install Sidequest, but it will allow you to install custom home environments and download many more interesting games. Some of these games are still in development and you can help play sort of beta demo versions here if you want, whereas others are simply fan games or homebrew apps like emulators. Playing Virtual Boy is probably the best way to emulate the system. You know, for all 3 people who actually want to play the Virtual Boy. The point is, Sidequest is almost essential. I mean, it's the reason the footage you're watching looks like this instead of this. Well, I mean, I say that, but as I've been working on this video, they started rolling out the V44 update, which allows you to record in 1080p without having to use Sidequest to do anything first, so there's that at least. We haven't even talked about the VR ports you can get running with Sidequest. Entire games just ported into VR for you to enjoy with an entirely new perspective. Doom 3 has more of a spooky atmosphere than its bloody, gory predecessors, and that works really well in VR. Being able to direct your flashlight into corners and blow demons to bloody bits is fantastic. And classic Doom games work great too. They even made it easy to install mods that replace textures or add levels and change gameplay. And even Minecraft has been ported to work on the Quest 2. And there's something very serene and peaceful about just building your own little house on the beach while in VR, before it turns into a nightmare with the creeper invasion. Overall, there's a lot of really awesome experiences on the Quest 2, some of which you can only try if you get Sidequest up and running. And as an added bonus, this is also how you can install Beat Saber mods. Now I should also talk about the PC VR experience. I don't have a link cable, so I had to make do with AirLink, which does work surprisingly well, depending on the game. Lighter games like Phasmophobia and Tetris Effect work almost flawlessly depending on your connection, and I don't have the greatest internet service. Something more demanding, like No Man's Sky in VR, also I do apologize for the footage, I was having a lot of problems getting this game to run, might not run too well if your connection isn't good. I don't have too many PC VR titles yet, so I couldn't really test a whole bunch of games or something like Half-Life Alyx, but it really isn't difficult to link up your headset and experience the most amazing titles that VR has to offer. Although as I'm editing this video, I did literally just get a notification telling me Half-Life Alyx is on sale, so if you'll excuse me. But now it's time to talk about the bad. And the MetaQuest 2 has a terrible battery life. That being said, VR almost seems to distort my sense of time anyways, and just a 30-minute play session can feel like an hour or two. It can take a little time to adapt and get past the motion sickness, but some people won't ever get past the VR motion sickness. It just comes down to the individual, and the game, I guess. Many games include options to accommodate for any sort of discomfort, but they may not be enough. And yes, battery life can be improved with accessories, and the default head strap can even be replaced, but the fact remains that for some people, those accessories will be a must-buy. Some people will just want to play VR for more than 3 hours, and I couldn't stand using the MetaQuest 2's stock head strap. I absolutely had to buy a new one. It was detrimental to my enjoyment of this device, and without the new strap, I simply wouldn't enjoy the MetaQuest 2. I could never adjust the stock strap to fit comfortably on my head. I also seem to be getting some stick drift on my left analog stick with less than a month of use. Other people online seem to report similar issues, so it doesn't seem like an isolated event either. And it sucks because it's really screwing me over in Tetris too. Okay, fine, I always sucked at Tetris, but never this bad. And then we have to talk about the specs on this device and how it's likely to be somewhat outdated soon. A very popular VR title, Population 1, has announced that development for the game will cease on the original Quest device, as they believe it's, well, kind of holding their game back from what they want to continue developing it as. Refunds were offered to players who own the game on the Quest 1, but it doesn't paint the greatest picture for the future of the Quest 2. Population 1 was an online multiplayer-focused game with constant updates though, so games that don't have much of an online focus or aren't continuously updating themselves and adding new content are likely always going to work fine. Still, if a game is available for both PC VR and MetaQuest 2, the Quest 2 version will likely be inferior due to the limited hardware. The game will have less sophisticated lighting or a lower resolution. Blade and Sorcery is a very popular VR title. Blade and Sorcery Nomad is the version for the standalone Quest 2, and it makes some sacrifices to get the game running here. So this might not end up being the experience you were hoping for if you buy this version. Also, like I said earlier, VR is at its best when the world reacts to your actions in a believable way. There's a lot of games that don't follow this rule, or they treat VR like a quick gimmick and make a game that feels more like a tech demo of what could be done in VR without actually making a game. This inevitably leads people to going back and playing what's familiar to them, what they already know to be good. And eventually VR starts to become stale to them, so they put down their headsets, only to be touched once every month or so to play another round of Beat Saber. Look, I don't mean to shit on Beat Saber. Beat Saber's great, it's really fun. But there's so much more you can do with a VR headset than just play Beat Saber. And I know there's tons of people out there that only really use their VR headsets to play just this one game. I know a few people, personally, that just use their VR headsets to play Beat Saber. And these things are so much more than just Beat Saber machines. VR has potential and a very bright future, but it's not for everyone. But even if VR has a bright future, what about the MetaQuest 2's future? There's still some great games to look forward to. Splinter Cell VR may have been cancelled, but apparently San Andreas VR is still a go, so that should be really fun. Bone Lab is probably the biggest thing on my list right now. That'll be coming to PC VR and MetaQuest 2 pretty soon actually, and I'm really looking forward to it. This will be one of those games that really shows people the raw potential of what you could do in VR, so I hope it lives up to expectations. But then we have to talk about the competition. The Pico 4, PSVR 2, and Project Deckard, the rumored standalone VR headset Valve is developing. Meta themselves are set to reveal more details about the Quest Pro headset coming next month, and I wouldn't doubt a Quest 3 release being set for next year. All this is to say, there's finally going to be competition for standalone VR headsets. PSVR 2 won't be standalone, but it will appeal to the already huge console crowd, and probably have some amazing exclusives. And with big gaming titans like Sony and Valve starting to get more serious about VR, we're likely to see a lot more people begin adopting this new technology. And as such, more developers will focus their efforts on making good VR games. With all these headsets coming out relatively close together, I think we're likely to see a VR boom. I think now more than ever, VR is more than likely to take off. Of course, this is also dependent on affordability and availability of all these headsets, but I can see many more people taking VR much more seriously. And if you wait a little longer, then you'll have a lot more options for what kind of VR headset you might like. And with the recent price increase in the Quest 2, there's even less reason to grab one now. I mean, if you've waited this long, then you can wait just a little longer to see what the future might bring. All that being said, I've had a lot of fun with my Quest 2. It has more uses than just gaming, but it can play many cool games on it as well. If you only want Beat Saber, this can do that. If you want to immerse yourself in new worlds, you can do that too. Social experiences, art, fitness, gaming, you can do a lot in VR. And I'm sure the Quest 2 will see some sort of sale, putting it back to the old price, maybe sometime around holiday season. I've seen people mention that places like Costco carry the Quest 2 for its old price, but I'd still recommend waiting to see what other VR devices will have in store. Though the Quest 2 is still good. It's a really damn good VR headset. And if you did want to get one, they even have a referral type of deal. So if you accept someone else's referral, you get like $30 of in-store credit or something when you activate a new Quest 2 device. And then you can refer others and get in-store credit yourself. People say it was double that amount around the holiday season, so instead of $30-something, you get like $60-something. So that might be something to look forward to. And with the price increase, they did also include Beat Saber for free. It doesn't justify the price increase, but it's probably something you were going to buy anyways, I guess. Also, it might be worth keeping your eye on the website Fanatical. They're the only other site I've seen that carries Oculus Quest games directly on the site, and sometimes you can get better deals here than from directly through Meta. You know, if you are still interested, I'll see if I can find my own referral code, and I'll leave a link to that in the description. But anyone with a Quest 2 would be more than happy to share their own code with you if mine doesn't happen to work or whatever. More importantly, I would still recommend waiting a little before deciding to buy a Quest 2, since I still don't think it's the greatest idea right now. That being said, if you still want to get one, I'm not going to stop you. The Pico 4 has better specs across the board, but won't be launching in America, so that might not be an option for you. And the PSVR 2 is reliant on having a PS5, so if you're still having trouble tracking one of those down, then good luck. The Quest Pro is supposed to be quite a bit more expensive than the Quest 2 and might have more of a focus on AR. And of course, there's Project Deckard, which we still know very little about. Despite it all, as of right now, the MetaQuest 2 is still one of the best VR headsets on the market. And if you still want to buy one, then go for it. You're allowed to enjoy things in life. Just like I hope you enjoyed this video. I appreciate you and everything you do. Ciao.